What's up, everybody? This is one of my absolute favorite times of the year to help train these guys and to see what they can become and the vision for what they have. I told them just the other day, this is a dream job, but it ain't easy. And there'll be a lot of work that goes into it. And sometimes the vision, we have to put it out there of what they can do here. It might be different than what they did in college. And how does that role happen? So I love it because I'm starting to get to know the dude before the player. And then when you can do that, that makes, where kind of the magic comes to know why somebody's playing and what they can do. And so these little moments like today, just, okay, what would that look like? How would I try them there? And doing different things. So this month of onboarding, indoctrinating, however you want to say it, is such an important time. But it keeps me young because, okay, let's go back to page one. And one of my old coaches, Bob Sutton, has said we can start at page one or go back to page one. But we're going to the beginning. And it's a fun time to do that.
Is there something that's changed over time where it's more indoctrination instead of evaluation right away?
Yes. And I can still remember and sometimes during this time, I did an exercise the other day of what would you go back to tell your rookie self? I had some coaches do it and some players do it, but I can go back to my own one as a rookie coach in San Francisco. And after the draft was a full team minicamp for all the old heads. You guys remember those, where everybody came, and you can imagine the overwhelming experience for a rookie to, over 2 practices. I think we did like 5 practices over the weekend, and it was wild. And so this is a little more structured and organized to help them so they don't miss one step, of the development. And really, that's what I want. Like, you can't, like on a ladder, start climbing 3 steps, just the next one, and you can get proficient at that and then to the next one.
What do you think a guy like Mozzie Smith can show you out here when there's not a lot of physicality, but yet are you looking for his awareness or just?
Yeah, it's right now I would say learning the system, number one, and then what we can do is look at the movements, and we can try to do specific drills to help, on your read to where to go, but without, going against one another. We won't get as much of that, but you can certainly simulate drills and certain techniques, and so that's what you do. You've seen the guys on the sled and how to work things, so it's more about how we do things here. I had told the guys all across the league over the last 2 weeks, every team has put in cover 3. It's not what we do, it's how we play it. And I think that's what I want them to understand. There's an identity that was put in here long before they arrived, and so we just try to keep pounding that as hard as we can.
What's it like to not have Mike around, and how did you guys kind of divvy up things without him here?
Yeah, and so it's easy because Mike's always so clear, hey, this is what we want to do. And so we had a real vision for what we wanted to get accomplished over this weekend with these guys. And it's mainly just, taking those first steps. And I think Mike would fully agree to let's not miss one step of their development and see what we have and how we can communicate and testing them and see where they're at. And then we'll begin with Mike and everybody else here this week of, merging everybody together. So if there was a time to miss for him, this would be, there's never a time that he would feel comfortable. We know, we all know we got his back, and we'll get him back soon.
Coach, most teams on the offense, they love having multiplicity. You seem to have that on the defensive side of the ball. Are you excited about what you're going to be able to do with so many different packages this year?
Yeah, I've really tried to spend as much time as I could on that to make things for us where people could play dual roles. And so even on a day like today, there was certain people trying at different spots. And I do like that to find out what they can do. So not just this month, but even during training camp, you may see some guys in some different spots just to test it out and say, okay, we see this really long and fast guy. Could he guard a tight end on 3rd down and make him a linebacker even though he's a D end? And could this linebacker who can play linebacker, can he rush? And so could this safety go down to play nickel? And when we can get to that spot where you're interchangeable pieces, I think that can just, it seems more complex, but really I would say the package can be easier, but we're just featuring people in different spots.
Is football going to becoming positionless in some
I think in some spaces it will be. I don't think we're going to see any corners playing nose tackle. I don't think, there's some things that won't, but I think for the amount of space plays that we have, a receiver that can be a runner can be a receiver, a tight end that can be a receiver, a D end that can play backer, a safety that can play nickel. Those perimeter type of people, I think, is changing that way. And certainly we're seeing that in college. I don't know how many defensive ends were drafted compared to linebackers. Will would know that. But I think a lot of players are coming in. This guy's fast, he's athletic, get him on the field. And sometimes you're seeing a guy who might have traditionally been a linebacker in the past, but is using his speed and his athleticism to go play. So I want to just try to incorporate that as often as we
And
can.
does Overshawn fit into that mix?
He does.
And all of those?
Yep, he
roles?
definitely does. And so going through the process, we even tagged people we thought would have, dual roles. It doesn't mean all of them will, but I do want to start that development. And sometimes it may be a whole year away to say, what would that look like behind the scenes, training in something, and then going. I think an example of that last year for our team was Bland, where he played outside early, and behind the scenes, we were working him at nickel. And then when Jordan got injured, he was ready for that space to go in and play well when that happened. But he was always behind the scenes kind of doing it. You don't want to have somebody do something for the first time in game week, because then it could be difficult. They didn't know all the ins and outs and where the problems are in a down.
You're learning about them as guys. What do you learn about Overshawn during the draft process?
Well, that's the one nice part. He was not only we got to see him in Indianapolis, but also having him here. And when the players get to here, it's a good feeling. We're with them all day. They're around a lot of different people. So I enjoy whether we're interacting with them on their campus or we're interacting with them here, because we can find out a lot about them. What I found out today, what I was really happy with, is the communication piece, of being inside and directing things. So whether you're at safety or a backer, just having that ability to communicate and talk to the guys, that's so important. The best of the best defenses, they talk. And so if you saw us repeat a play, it might have not been due to the execution, it was due to the communication, that it wasn't loud enough or strong enough. So that's part of the teaching of them to go. The term I would say is they're grown, but they're not grown-ups. Like, they don't communicate and say it in the way that we need to yet, but we'll get them to that spot.
Well, you guys are obviously outstanding in defense a year ago. Then you add other pieces to it, Gilmore and Mozzie and some others. What do you think about when you look at what you have roster-wise? Just kind of what are your thoughts about where this defense can go?
Well, I think one for me, I think so much that I love this group, this team, and I love being on the journey with them, and so how to feature different guys who enter into this brotherhood of guys, that's the fun part of it. And so for a guy like Steph, or for a guy like Mozzie, or for any of the players that we added, it really doesn't matter how they got into the room. Now you're here. What are you going to do with it? And so that's a good thing to show examples of last year, the undrafted players who had a big impact, the guys who were drafted had the impact. So now that they're here, that's our job to find all the unique stuff that they have and then try to make that come to life. Not everybody's going to be good at everything, but if we can find out you're better at this than anybody, then that's how we need to try to feature you to start it off.
Land was a undrafted guy.
Go ahead, I'll take these two. Yeah. Go ahead. I'll take these two. Go ahead. Yeah.
You said dual roles, and obviously Micah's kind of talked a little bit about defensive end. Do you still view him in that same way as dual roles, or are we still working on that?
Yeah, 100%. So he is a pass rushing linebacker. Okay, so if you ever need position changes, come to me. Okay, not to any of the guys, and we can adjust that. I think what he was probably trying to say is I'm really emphasizing some pass rush into my off season.
Isaiah Lamb was a kid that you thought about transferring, but they said stay. And then you guys obviously were interested in him. What did you like about him?
Well, a lot of things, and I've had my eye on Zay for quite some time. I first saw him looking at Bell from a year ago, and he had a fantastic junior year. They did. He had over 20 sacks and really lit it up. Like, who's this guy? I saw Bell and that, and so I kept up with him through the time, even with Marquise. I remember calling Marquise from the combine. Hey, they ran well. He did good. And I said, he's a dog. And so from that time, I've always had my vision on him, the size, the length. Could this defensive end play linebacker? Could he go down? I know he can rush. So I was just trying to add. He's one of the examples of what else can they do. And so he's somebody I'm excited to see, and there's no timeline on that. Like, development takes time. You're not going to get there in 1 day or 2 days. Like, we're going to be in this for the long haul to see what they can do. And not every person that you train at two spots works out that way. It's, okay, that didn't work, let's go back and get good at something. So I'm pretty cognizant of that. I don't want a player to play slowly because they're overthinking. My job is to make them play fast and clean, where they can go run and they can go hit.
Thanks.
All right, you guys have a good one.
You too.